Yeah. Boxing aficionados. What's up? What's going on? Hey, yo, check this out. What a night. What a performance by none other than Terence Crawford. So, here's the rub, baby. Right? I think a lot of people got this confused, you know. They keep reporting this fight or his performance as if he finally proved that he could be competitive with the elites. I disagree with that. That's not what Terence Crawford proved last night by defeating Shawn Porter, right? He didn't prove that he could hang with the elites or that he was elite, right? We knew that. What Terence Crawford proved last night was the fact that these PBC fighters are not elite, right? These PBC fighters were never elite. None of them. People used to think Spence was, but you know, that's before the accident. But before the accident, he fought Porter, right? That was prime Errol Spence that fought Shawn Porter, right? That's before the accident, right? And he went life and death with that man, right? Got clocked a couple of times. Had to settle on a split decision win, even after having knocked Shawn Porter down, right? And Shawn Porter got up, kept coming. 12 rounds. Earned himself a split decision, although in a loss, right? And then here comes Terence Crawford, who makes Shawn Porter look inept, right? You know, one of the things that happens during the broadcast is that they were going back and forth as far as how close the fight was. I'm of the mindset that to the novice eye, the fight may have been close because of all the movements and gyrations that Shawn Porter does. That herky-jerky, his strength, his quickness, and his volume of output make it look as if he's accomplishing something when he's really not. If you look at that fight, and you were really looking at what was going on, Shawn Porter never landed clean on Terence Crawford. If he landed clean, I think it might have been a grand total of twice, right? And by clean, I mean that impactful connection, right? Because even in the moments that he did hit Shawn Porter, even at the moments that Shawn Porter hit Terence Crawford, his cleanest punches on Terence Crawford, his hardest punches on Terence Crawford, they were not impactful in that Terence Crawford either went with the punch or parried it, right? And I don't want to discredit Shawn Porter too much. I don't want to, discredit his effort, because as I was watching the fight, especially in the first 3 rounds, I thought that I would give those first 3 rounds to Shawn Porter. But then in those middle rounds, those 4, 5, 6 rounds where people were debating whether he was doing a lot of work or not, or who had what, I started really paying attention to what Terence Crawford was doing. And I was realizing that even on the replays of Shawn Porter's work, there was a lot of parrying of his punches, evasion of his punches by Terence Crawford, and then there was a lot of times where Shawn Porter actually just missed. So, having said that, it was an interesting fight, but by the 4th, 5th round, I could tell that Crawford had really just gauged the speed, Shawn Porter's speed, gauged the distance, and got into the rhythm of what he had to do in order to dispose of Shawn Porter. And dispose of him he did. There was a sequence over, I believe in the 7th round, when Terence Porter unleashed about 4 or 5 unanswered punches, landed flushing on a flush on Shawn Porter's face, right? Sequences like that did not exist for Shawn Porter. Sequences like that did not exist for Errol Spence when he fought Shawn Porter. He never landed 4 or 5 punches consecutively on Shawn Porter that clean, that hard, right? Didn't do that in that entire fight. I saw that fight. Terence Crawford did. This was around the 7th round, 8th round, 9th round. And in those rounds, that's where, the cream rose to the top, where I really saw that Shawn Porter could not touch Terence Crawford in the inside or coming in, or Terence Crawford would pivot, get out the way, olay him like he was some bull in a china shop, and really started dismantling and really pulling away, as far as showing that there is in fact levels to this, and that Shawn Porter was not on his. Moments like that never really happened to Shawn Porter when he fought Errol Spence. There was no time in that fight where there was any discernible difference between Shawn Porter's level and Errol Spence's. Thus, the split decision win for Errol Spence, despite having knocked down Shawn Porter. On the other hand, when Terence Crawford went to finish that fight and knocked down Shawn Porter, followed it up with another knockdown of Shawn Porter, there came the moment that some people want to raise some controversy about, which is Kenny Porter choosing to throw in the towel, right? A lot of people say, why he stopped that fight? Shawn Porter, he's tough. He could still would have gone on it. No. At that point, Kenny Porter, having known Terence Crawford his entire life, his entire boxing life, right? Having seen the great finisher, the merciless mercenary killer that Terence Crawford is, the bloodthirsty killer that he can be in that ring, he said, you know what? This doesn't have to end any worse than it is right now for my son. He's got a future in broadcasting. He's affable. Everyone loves Shawn Porter. He doesn't need to sustain more punishment than he already has. The fight was proven at that point. Anything further would have been overkill. Anything further would have been reserved for a fighter with less of a future outside the ring than Shawn Porter. You understand? Or a younger fighter with less of a future outside the ring than Shawn Porter, right? At this stage of the game, Shawn Porter's future is bright. I'm proud of that guy. I listened to his podcast, and he could hang him up with his head high, having known that he stepped up to the plate and made a lot of money on his way out on his last fight, you know, and stepped up to the plate, put his hat in the ring, put his gloves on, and went and faced the true boogeyman of the division, the man whom streets were created for. You know, they created streets and avenues and universes and bubbles to stay away from. That's a boogeyman. That's Terence Crawford. You understand? And Terence Crawford proved the point. There's nobody that was ever at the PBC on his level. He is the cream of the welterweight division. The cream of the welterweight division has always resided on the top rank side of the street. That much is clear. And I find it fitting that in the moment of his victory, Errol Spence, who sat in the arena, chose to exit stage left or exit stage right so that he won't have to answer any questions or maybe have gone through the embarrassment of being called out into the ring or right there in an arena like that in front of all these people on a pay-per-view event. So, you know, it showed his character, man. It showed who Errol Spence is as a character and quite frankly as a man. You know, and it's sorely lacking. And if I were a PBC fan, I would be embarrassed at Errol Spence choosing to leave the arena at that moment. So, moving forward, like I said, people are now, some are drawing up this narrative as if it was Crawford who proved himself being capable to hang with the elites, rather than Crawford proving that he is elite and there was nobody else on his level. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. This is Next Level Boxing Talk. Motherfuckers, I'm out.